noise!
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm, brought to you by funkinstuff.net. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I'm your host, Scott Dr. Jakes Goldfine, musicologist and author of Everything's on the One, the First Guide to Funk. If you don't have your copy, get on over to Amazon and pick one up. You'll be so glad you did. Whether you're watching the video version of this at funkinstuff.net or on YouTube, or listening to the audio-only podcast version from providers like iTunes and Spotify, as always, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in the show. Speaking of which, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives. All kinds of goodies. You'll get early premieres, and it's all free, so make sure you sign up. Tell a friend, tell family. Also, get your official Truth and Rhythm and Funk and Stuff gear at the funkinstuff.net store. Cool stuff like I'm wearing right here. Truth and Rhythm shirts. Show your support and love of the show and also the musicians and the music that they represent. Also want to give a shout out to the Funk Exhibition Center and Hall of Fame in Dayton, Ohio, of which I'm very proud to be an official funk ambassador. Go to thefunkcenter.org to learn more and keep the funk alive. And now, with all that, it's time to get on with the show. Enjoy. I am pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership Adam Smirnoff, guitarist and co-founder of the tremendous funk jazz soul pocket groove machine known as Lettuce. Since 2002, the group has released 7 studio and 2 live albums as well as an EP. These have been a godsend for fans of authentic, horn-driven, primarily instrumental funk jazz, rife with influences from Herbie Hancock to the Meters, to the Crusaders, to the JBs, and beyond. Lettuce's most recent album, 2019's Elevate, debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Contemporary Jazz album chart and iTunes R&B albums chart, and it also received a Grammy nomination for Best Contemporary Instrumental Album. Plus, there's a new album that will likely be available by the time you watch this, and that's exciting. Adam, how are you? Welcome.
Man, I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And, under these circumstances that we're all dealing with right now, maybe by the time people are watching this, maybe they'll be different.
I sure hope so. You holding up okay? Where are you based?
I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I'm here with my family. And, I'm really lucky to be locked down, with the people here high love. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's good news that everything's okay so far.
Yes, sir.
But how challenging has it been, not being able to, get out there and perform, and you getting a little bit of cabin fever? How's that going?
Oh, man, it's extremely challenging as far as like what we do for a living and what every musician is going through right now, and what everyone who works in the music business, everyone who works in the restaurant business. I mean, the list just goes on and on. We're just all having such a difficult time. And as I said, we're just trying to make the best of the situation,
Yeah. Well, we pray for those that are ailing and for this to come to a conclusion soon.
Me too.
But, music is salvation, right? So thank God for that.
Sure is, man. It's the great escape, man.
Yeah.
No matter what, you could put on a pair of headphones and close your eyes and sit on the couch and be taken to a faraway land, and that's the beauty, right?
Oh man, absolutely. We're so thankful for that, and thankful for you to bring it to us. So,
well, I'm thankful for everyone else who brings it, and inspires us to do it, and couldn't be done without all the predecessors and all our peers driving us,
Absolutely. Speaking of which, Adam, I wanted to ask you how you first gravitated towards the guitar and who were some of your early and main influences.
I first gravitated towards the guitar after I saw two films. The first one my parents happened to show me. It was Jimi Hendrix live at Monterey Pop. I remember him playing Wild Thing, and I was really just blown away by the whole showmanship and lighting the guitar on fire and his clothes and his attitude. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. I think immediately I asked for a guitar. And then maybe like within the same week, I happened to watch the movie Crossroads. That was really, a lot about blues guitar and a lot of guitar playing by Arlen Roth in it. And of course, the big battle at the end. I don't want to give the movie away if you haven't seen it. But those two things, and then I remember I asked for a guitar again. They were like, all right, you seem pretty serious that you want one. And my parents were really supportive musically. There's a lot of music in my family from my grandmother, both grandparents, grandfathers on both sides. My mother's last name was Musicant at one point, which means musician, and her whole like Russian lineage on that side. And then my Uncle Joel was in the Juilliard String Quartet, and is a world-renowned violinist and conductor at this point.
Wow, interesting. That Crossroads movie, was that the one with Ralph Macchio?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought Ry Cooder did some of that too, actually. But
I think you might be right.
Yeah, I remember that. Very cool. So, how did the band come into existence? And I've heard some stories how it got its name, but why don't you share that with us?
Sure. We started out as kids at the Berklee School of Music 5-week program, which is during the summertime, and you can be like 15 or 16, something. I think we were all some 15 or 16, and the core of us attended that, and we lived in the same like dormitory, and we would hang out and smoke weed and play music and jam, which is kind of still what we do today.
Did you all?
Which is half where the name comes from, and the other half would be like, hey, let us borrow your guitar amp, man. Let us sit in for a tune. It was that kind of vibe.
Yeah. Who do you remember who actually put it forth? Hey, let's call ourselves that.
I think actually it was this guy Nick Casper, this other keyboard player. Pretty sure.
And who were the original members? What was the original nucleus?
Adam Deitch, Jesus, Eric Coombs, Ryan Zoidis, Eric Krasno, and myself.
So how much has that changed now? Most of those guys are still around, if not all, right?
All of us except for Kraz, who's off doing his own thing and doing it so beautifully right now, and we're really, really proud of what he's accomplishing.
Yeah. And you guys have sort of a symbiotic relationship with Soul Live. You want to describe how that works?
Well, I mean, Kraz and Neil were in the group for a while, and they're both in Soul Live. So we did a lot of shows together during that era, and that's kind of it, Those were our homies, and we did shows, keeping it simple.
when you guys came together, how mutual were your fandoms of, you know, rhythm-based music?
I mean, that's what brought us together. You know, we during that time, funk music really wasn't like on the forefront of society, aside from maybe at that time the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and you know, there was also like Fishbone at the time. That was really big, and Living Color, who was kind of more like rock funk. Rock funk was bigger, you know. And we weren't like the full metal guys, and we weren't the full straight ahead guys at Berkeley, and funk and R&B and hip hop. That was more of our vibe, and we all gravitated towards each other for our love of these musics, you know.
And who were some of the primary bands? I mean, I mentioned some of the intro, but I think also like Tower of Power probably. And who are some of the other guys?
Bootsy Collins and James Brown, and you know, there's so much stuff. Sly and the Family Stone. You put me on the spot here. Zapp and Roger, Trouble Funk. The list goes on and on. I think if you take our first record, we actually list so many people. So you can go back and check that out if you want.
Okay.
You said you had the first record, so
yeah,
it should be in the liner notes.
It's in the other room. I got to go. But yeah, the first record was Out of Here in 2002, and
that's right.
But Adam, you are so right, man. At that time when you guys came out, there was, you know, a dearth of especially newer funk music, and especially with horns too, you know?
Yeah. Well, luckily for us, Maceo Parker at that time had that huge resurgence, and was playing shows and influenced a lot of us, and we got together, and when we got the opportunity to play like a Maceo tune with each other, it was like, oh my God, this is hip. Or a Herbie Hancock tune, you know.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Maceo, that's my hero right there on sax. And you even had his partner Fred Wesley on that first record, right? How did that come to happen?
He had already done shows with us. We did a residency at the Wetlands early on that actually had Schofield, the first time Deitch ever played with Sco, which then, of course, he went on later in his career to record Uber Jam and some other stuff with Schofield, and all those amazing tours that they did together. And then I believe Robert Randolph and the Family Band might have been one of the guests during one of them, and I ended up gigging with them later on. Fred Wesley was definitely one of our guests. I think there was a night that we did Javier Colon as one of the guests, who went on to be a winner of America's Most Talented Singer. What is it? No, what is it called?
America's Got Talent?
Yeah, yes. Maybe. No, I don't know if it's American. One of those singer shows.
American Idol?
Not the other one.
Okay.
I don't watch them, I forget.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, and actually I think it wasn't Robert Randolph. It was Bernard Purdy, Reuben Wilson, and Grant Green Jr., I think, was one of the events. So that was at the Wetlands residency. That's when Fred Wesley came on the fold with us, and you know, when we asked him to record, he was gracious enough to do it, and we had a lot of fun with him.
He's on the title track, and then I think one other cut that you actually, it's named after him, right?
Yeah, the JB's cover.
Super Fred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is like super bad.
Very cool.
And Sco's on the record too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So obviously you see the significance between those residencies that we did at the Wetlands in New York, how that album ended up turning out.
You had been jamming for quite a while before you finally got a record out, right? So,
Sure.
when did it, was it always the ambition to get a record out? And did it take longer than expected, or?
No, I think for a long time it was just kind of, I don't know if any of us really believed like Lettuce would be the thing that would make us our living. Just, being an instrumental funk band, there were a lot of people who didn't believe in us, and probably like a little bit in ourselves too. And we were all hungry young kids who wanted to go do gigs. So like Deitch went and did the Average White Band gig. He ended up doing the Schofield gig. He ended up doing the Wyclef gig. At one point, I'm doing Robert Randolph, and then Lady Gaga at one point, and Jesus is working with like Britney Spears and Dr. Dre in the studio, and we just wanted to make names for ourselves as musicians, and we didn't think really Lettuce was going to be that avenue until much later on, even probably after Out of Here came out. Out of Here was more of like, hey man, we need to document this thing that we've been doing. But becoming a full-time touring band didn't come till like, what, 6 years ago? 7 years ago? Right?
Yeah. When you went into the studio finally, and subsequently too, what is the band's process like? Is, there certain guys that have certain roles, and what is the creative process like to create the tracks?
Well, everyone has their own voice, and we all have. There's a democratic process that would make a tune be like, okay, this is lit. We all agree that this should be a Lettuce tune. And then, of course, there's some prolific writers in the band. Adam Deitch is an incredible multi-instrumentalist, not just a drummer, who writes incredible stuff. He's one of the funkiest human beings on the planet. I recommend having him on your show at some point. And, everyone comes with these awesome ideas, and they kind of just get worked on, and some of them are complete, some of them aren't. And we just kind of hash them out of how it should be played live, and where solo sections should come, and beginnings and endings, and overall sounds, and who's playing what parts. And then there's the stuff that just happens on the spot, which is the magical stuff.
Were you guys happy with the way the first record came out?
Yeah, very much so.
I wanted to share with you, on that first record, I just love so much of it, but in particular, the title track, The Flu is such great intense funk, and Squad Line.
Squad Line.
Yeah. Reunion, and you did the Herbie Hancock cover.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Showing our roots, which is what I was saying before, playing a Herbie Hancock tune, like that ended up on the record. And that's, one of the things that brought us together. I love that record. Really, when I look back on it. So they're our children. Each one of these records, they're our kids, and you love them all. And it's fun to see the process, how it evolves and changes, and how beautifully it is to be around these incredible musicians, the other guys in Lettuce, that are just so phenomenal and to be around, and they're so inspiring. And like, you know, to have a singer now like Nigel Hall, who's able to bring all these sonic landscapes now, and Zoidus, what he's doing with his synthesizer, and you know, everything that Bloom plays, like he could play over 10 million changes, and he can play over funk. He's one of the few human beings that can do that on the planet, I feel like, in such an authentic way. You know, obviously Deitch is one of the greatest drummers of all time, and you have Jesus, who's got just the best tone and the best feel and the best rhythmic concepts. You know, I just feel so lucky to be in a band, you know, straight up. And I still feel that way since the day I met them till right at this second.
That's fantastic.
Especially now that I'm at home and I don't get to play right now. I'm like jonesing that feeling, you know?
Yeah. Are you guys able to do anything remotely while you're split up?
Yeah, we're sending around tunes, and we're working on some stuff, and I'm able to mix some stuff here at home, and I'm sure everyone is working on their own ideas on their own. I can't wait to hear everything, you know?
So, Adam, from a guitar standpoint, though, who are a few of your favorites or influences that you could highlight for us?
Wah Watson, Catfish Collins, Jimmy Nolan, Jimi Hendrix, Bruce Conti, Tower. There's so many influences for me. That's the ones that just came off the top of my head right there.
Yeah, some of the all-time great rhythm players right there, no doubt. Yeah, and in some cases, a couple of them are a little underrated too, I think. But yeah. So as you said, though,
shout out to Leo as well. The Meters, can't forget that. Can't forget that one.
Definitely. Yeah, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Love Leo.
Love Leo, man.
But like you had mentioned, you know, there was that big gap, like 6 years or something, until you guys came with your second record because you were not sure it was going to be the full-time gig, right? So,
I just think at that point that was more of a trying to capture what we had been doing for that time, and and that wasn't the full time hit for any of us at that moment in 2002.
When you came back with Rage, what do you think had changed for you guys as a band by then?
Well, obviously Neil played keys on that record. That was different. I don't know what was really that different during that time, aside from maybe like just being more experienced, being just recording ourselves. We were still a little bit more novices during the Out of Here days, and we were really lucky to have Ari Raskin as the engineer on that record. And I think by the time we got to Rage, we were a little bit like, we as individuals understood recording a little bit more, and wanted to have a little bit more hands-on for that record, as far as like, you know, the mixing process, and I think there was more of an involvement from everyone in that versus the first record, where you know what, I can't even remember like who was there for like the mixing process in the first record, and I remember like clearly everyone being there for that record, and just what else is on that record?
Well, one of the unique things about that,
starting to do like more hip hop stuff, was like Mr. Yancey on there, and I think that really, like, you know, hey, this is funk too, and this is our modern interpretation of funk, and that's continued from every album from that point on. I believe, that more hip hop funk feel.
Mm-hmm. And you had some interesting covers on here with "Express Yourself" and "Move On Up."
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then how did you get your nickname? Because it surfaces here by any means necessary.
It does. It does. My last name is Smirnoff. And I think when I was in high school, my nickname was Smurns, like Smirnoff. But then, like, as I met, like, more New York, some other people, it was more like Smirnoff. And then it became Schmeens. And that's it.
I really like on that record "King of the Bergs," "Need to Understand," and "Making My Way Back Home" is a cool one too.
The debut of Nigel Hall in Lettuce. Thank you so much for saying that. That's right. That's one of the biggest differences on that record. That's for sure.
How was it playing with a vocalist? Was it awkward at first, or just kind of hand in glove? And
not awkward at all. Just everything's always felt really natural with him, and he makes things feel really natural because he's one of the most natural musicians you'll ever meet in your life.
How'd you the band connect with him?
I think through Ryan Zoidis, because they were both in Maine. Ryan is from Portland, Maine, and I believe during that time, Nigel was living in Bangor, Maine, and gigging around Portland.
On this record, what came to mind for me also was a little bit of Brecker Brothers, with the sort of electric horn sound. Would you say was any influence on the horn side of the band, or?
Yeah. I obviously, like, Brecker Brothers is a huge influence on the entire funk fusion world. Whether that was specifically what they were going for, I can't really tell you. I doubt it. I think that there's probably some sonic things, like using a envelope filter on a saxophone or something like that, which might, make you think of that.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned Mr. Yancey. That was another cool one. That's actually listed as a bonus track. But what was great about that record, too, is you guys started coming regularly with albums after that. So, there was no long wait after that. The Fly came next, and another really strong record that really showed the Heavy Meters influence with Zigawatt. And
question. Named, obviously that's the nod to Zigaboo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think even musically, you can hear touches of Meters elsewhere too in the record, and
that's definitely like a part of all of us at this point.
And how much is it a thrill, or has it been a thrill, Adam, when you've gotten to actually meet these influences that have been so important to you guys? I imagine you've probably met almost all of them by now.
Yeah, I've met all of them. Rest in peace, Art. At this point, I've been lucky enough to be able to play music with all the remaining members. I've played with George, played with Zig, played with Leo, and we've all gotten to really like hang and talk and vibe and with some of our musical heroes. So, how lucky are we? I mean, it's really incredible when you really start thinking about it. It's like kind of moving, honestly. Like between Maceo and Fred and Pee Wee and all the Meters and Shaka Khan at one point. And, just crazy, man. Dr. John.
Oh, yeah.
And rest in peace. And, you know, this lettuce thing has taken us on like a funk journey where we've gotten to really link up with, you know, the dudes, man, our heroes, our funk legends, the people who inspired us to play. So it's like, it doesn't really get much better than that, you know.
Have you ever encountered any of them where they told you that they actually liked something that you guys did and it was like, wow, he's aware, you know, they're aware of us?
One moment stands out in particular. Just, we were in a rehearsal room with Maceo, and I forget exactly what was going on, but he just like stopped. And he was like, hold on a second, yo. That's too funky, man. That was too funky. And then we brought it back in. It was just really a hilarious moment where, like, Maceo was overwhelmed with the funk that he had to, like, stop us for a second. And then I was like, wow, if we moved Maceo like that, all right. So maybe we're actually touching on something.
Wow, yeah, I mean, you can't get better validation than that. Wow.
Couldn't agree more.
On the Fly album, you also did a cover of "Slipping into Darkness," the War classic.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, that's an influence that we haven't mentioned, and maybe people might not immediately think of, but War is another phenomenal group.
Legend, funk legend. Yeah.
Also really liked on that record, Do It Like You Do, and The Crusher.
Yep. Nigel Hall again. Do It Like You Do. Yeah. And The Crusher, yep, ended up being like that real psychedelic track on the record.
And that record actually got up to number 6, I believe, on the charts. So you guys got that kind of recognition and that kind of attention with Fly. How did that feel? Did that change, you know, the kind of gigs you guys were getting and that kind of notoriety?
You know, I think it enabled us that when we did finally decide to start touring nationally, that when we didn't really know or not whether we were going to have audiences in these places, that finally when we got there, there were people who know these records, who have known these records, and tell us like, man, we've been waiting for you to come, and that kind of like is the backbone of why we were able to start touring full time, essentially.
And if you could share with the viewers and listeners, you know, what can they expect at a Lettuce show? You know, what are the shows like?
Expect to get down and have some fun, loosen up, you know, smoke a joint, have a drink, or don't do any of those and just listen to the music and have some fun, you know? Dance. Expect to dance. Expect to be taken somewhere by the music.
Next came Crush, and you know that cover was pretty unusual and interesting. Is that a famous painting or something with the elephants and the horn?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah. We were able to license that painting from what's his last name? Kush, right? Something. Jesus found the artists. It's slipping my mind his first name right now.
It seemed familiar to me, but
yeah, it's a very famous name.
Yeah, it's very cool though. I like it. This record, I mean, really cranks on the funk. I mean, Get Greasy and Chief, Trilogy, Silver Dome. Well, Silver Dome is actually, yeah. And then you have a Bobby Gentry cover of all things on that record.
Yeah, that's right.
That seems kind of eclectic. How did that come to be?
That's with Alicia, right?
I don't
On
know
that
who's
band.
doing the vocal on it actually, but
What's the name of the song?
it's called "He Made a Woman Out of Me."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's Alicia. That was um, during a time that we had Alicia Shakur singing with us a lot, and she has been with the Derek Trucks band
Okay.
um, since our time with her. We were lucky enough to have her on this record, and she's got a really wide taste and a huge knowledge of probably like a lot of music that we don't have, and she brought this tune to the table, I'm pretty sure.
Chief, especially that track is just blistering funk. You know.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Um,
Sure.
yeah, it's the kind of stuff that I just could listen to all day long, and often do. Phyllis and Trilogy, to me, those tracks had some of the sonics that kind of were some of the groundwork, I think, for your more current recordings. In terms of
100%. And why I stated before that Mr. Yancey was kind of like the birth of that on Rage, and now we're kind of expanding on those ideas more and more, and kind of probably more representing the directions that we were going into live at the time, and more of like that headspace where we get into those kinds of like trippy jams and stuff like that. So very psychedelic influence more and more for these records, I think.
yeah, it's very interesting to track sort of the genesis of it coming through like that. Um, and then Silverdome, to me, is sort of like classic funkadelic sound.
Yeah, no question. You know, definitely trying to conjure those sonic spaces right there, and pay homage to the great. And definitely that Bernie Worrell influence, and the real funkadelic maybe influence on that.
Did you ever share a bill with George Clinton and that band, or meet those guys?
Yes, sir. Yes,
That'd
sir.
be. I would like that bill right there. Lettuce and P Funk would be something else.
I'm down. Let's do it.
You guys then did it sort of a couple of curveballs. You did an EP with Mount Crushmore, and then the Miles thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what were you thinking? You just wanted to do something a little off the
Nah,
beaten path?
we didn't plan the Miles thing at all. It was just a gig that kind of happened. It got recorded, and it was in the middle of like an album cycle, and we knew it would be fun to release something. We didn't know what we were going to release. When we listened back to it, we were like, man, that was a really fun. That was a really fun gig. I like the sound of it. I like the vibe of it. Let's put it out there and see if people dig it. It was really that simple. It's not, it wasn't rocket science. We played a gig, we recorded it, and we were like, yeah, that's cool. Let's put it out.
What made you decide to do a tribute like that, though, even in the first place?
Eric, that was an idea from Bloom that he wanted to do at this festival that we were playing, the Catskill Chill Festival. Some things are pretty spontaneous. That gig was like really wacky. It was super early in the morning, so people had like stayed up all night, and there's a certain kind of like tension on that recording. I think people were kind of butting heads a little bit before the gig, and I don't know. Maybe Miles kind of like dug that. In my mind.
Did you guys have to rehearse much to do, sort of?
We didn't rehearse any of that. That's what I'm saying while we were butting heads before the gig, like arguing about the tunes and the sections or whatnot, you know. And just kind of, I don't know how that happened, but it did, so.
How often do you guys just kind of, how rigid are you in sticking to a set list for a show versus just kind of going wherever?
I'd say like we're 70-30, you know. I say we stick to the set list we write most of the time, but sometimes like we get to somewhere and we're like, yo, we just play this kind of feeling and we don't want to play that feeling anymore. Let's pick a different song, or you're reading the crowd, or you want to do something more energetic right at that moment, or you want to do something chiller right at that moment. You know, there's definitely like a feel it out on stage kind of thing. And then, you know, if we're jamming really hard during nights, we have to cut tunes because we played too long. And I'd say that happens like most of the time. We're definitely like a cut a tune off our set list, you know, every night practice. Maybe we just need to step right.
Are there one or two like unforgettable show or stories from the road that you could share with us that stand out in your mind from the whole history of the band?
The whole history of the band. Well, definitely like getting to play with Shaka Khan is one of them for me. I don't know what kind of stories I have for you, except that like every day with most of these guys, like for the most part, is just hanging out with my buddies. So it's all kind of like one big party when I think back on the whole thing. And I don't mean like an out of control party. I just mean like, man, I've been lucky enough to really hang out with my friends for 30 years practically, you know? So I don't know. I think that's the best story of them all. That like we've had this relationship for this long, that we really actually care about each other as human beings, and you know, as friends, and not just musicians and colleagues and bandmates and business partners. You know, there's more of a depth to it than just that, and that's the story.
Brothers in Funk.
Brothers in Funk, man.
Have you guys gone overseas much or at all?
Yeah, we just got back. We literally got Corona right in under the Corona cutoff.
What's the biggest crowd do you think, or you might have played for?
Maybe like Bonnaroo stage or something like that. 40,000 people. I'm not sure. Those festivals, they all seem so big to me. You know, every time I look out on maybe that Lock-In show we did with the Great Dead guys and the Dead & Co guys, excuse me. And that's another one that stands out. It's been a long, crazy journey.
Sounds like a deadism right there. Yeah.
I tried to change. I changed 2 words.
Adam, so Elevate came out last year, and you know, got a lot of acclaim, got nominated for a Grammy, and congratulations on that. And definitely was a departure from what had preceded it in terms of, you know, the varied scope of it and the more variety in the palette of sonics, if you will. It starts out with that trapezoid, which has sort of a foreboding hip hop kind of vibe, and just kind of takes off in a lot of directions from there. What were those sessions like? And you know,
That session was prolific. That session was like we recorded the last record, most of this record, and some of the next record. And these are the Russ Elevato sessions essentially. Working with him, the dream come true, the stuff he did with D'Angelo and Erykah Badu and the Roots and all of that. That's some of our favorite stuff of all time, especially Groove. That one stands out as maybe one of my favorite modern records of all time. And so we got to work with the engineer and for that. And again, how lucky are we? I got another hero we get to work with, just on a different level.
How'd that connection happen?
I can't really recall. Maybe it was more of like, hey, who's one of your dream guys you could ever work for? Let's reach out to. Maybe it wasn't that. But in my mind, maybe it was.
Well, highlights are many on Elevate, but I like myself. My favorites are Royal Highness, which is a serious groove, a little bit of Minneapolis Sting, but also reminds me a little bit of a Track by One Way, if you know that band. And
well, it's definitely the name. In name, it's a tip to the hat to His Royal Highness Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Larimar, very cool, and also Purple Cabbage.
No question. Yeah. Again, like, still that Mr. Yancey, that trilogy world, still keeping it going and transforming and morphing and progressing.
And Gang 10, is that your guys' longest studio cut of all time?
I would probably think it was.
Yeah. And in the sequencing, I'm sure it was intentional to have it in the middle to kind of break up the two.
That sounds right. That sounds right. Yeah.
And then Ready to Live, very much like a Tower of Power kind of thing.
It's a Cold Blood cover. Lydia Pence.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Cold Blood.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. No wonder. And Love is Too Strong.
It's Lydia's solo record. So it's Cold Blood and I think Tower of Power.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong.
I'll have to go back and look for that. Original.
We'll have to go check that out. But it's definitely funky. It's a slower version than ours. We sped it up a little bit. We definitely gave it that like real Tower feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Love is Too Strong is very much of a Stax kind of thing.
No question. Yeah. Got to Marcus King, who has blown up since we recorded that. And we love Marcus, man. He's such a young talent, man. He can sing and he can play guitar. And we were really lucky that our paths crossed.
Yeah, he's something else.
Yeah, he is.
And just, it's like so great when you come across a genuine article because it seems like far and fewer between nowadays,
Sure are.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think there are a lot of genuine articles right now. We're seeing so many people on the internet. So many people have a voice to be heard right now. All these young kids come up. They're so talented, man. They've had YouTube their whole lives. They play like every instrument. They know every tune. These young kids keep impressing me more and more and more and more. I am so encouraged for the young musical world, and we've been doing a lot of teaching as Lettuce right now, and I couldn't be more encouraged right now just from some of the talent that these young kids have, man. Unbelievable.
I feel the same way. I just think you have to be proactive and go find them on the internet nowadays.
Yeah. Lucky enough, maybe they're drawn to me because of of what Lettuce is doing. Lettuce is like this beacon of like, you know, funk is just surrounding us, and sometimes we get the call. Oh wow, there it is.
You know what I hear from some players though is that these YouTube like kids or generation, that a lot of them can play really well, but they're more copying and not so much as their own thing or being as innovative. What do you think of that?
I don't buy that for 1 second. You know what I mean? Like, come on, what would have happened to us if when we were 16 years old, like the only jams that like were on the internet were those Maceo and Herbie jams that we were doing. We weren't really playing original music yet. People that said the same thing about us, and that's part of development. You got to let people develop, and I think part of this YouTube thing is you actually see people develop in front of your eyes, and I think people are genuinely scared of great talent. They want to put some excuse out there that makes them feel better about themselves. But these kids, there's no denying them. They are the real deal.
Well, that makes me feel pretty good about things. So let's talk about the new record, Resonate, coming out very soon. By the time people see this, it'll probably be out, actually. But I've heard two songs, Checker Wrecker with Big Tony, who was on this show recently from Trouble Funk.
Hey, now another one of our heroes we get to do it with. You know what I mean? I can't believe it.
Yeah, he's talk about an original item. He is one right there. And Ndugu, which is from Ndugu Chancler, the great drummer who left us a year ago or so. Unfortunately, he passed on. But another legendary player right there. So what can you tell us about this record, Adam?
Man, as I said, like, we recorded a chunk of stuff at once. I can only speak personally for myself. This is my favorite chunk so far. I really enjoy this record personally. I think it's my favorite that we've ever sounded. There were so many strong. We had to take some songs out for the next record that are just awesome tunes too, and so I just feel like the song selection on this is so strong, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And these guys worked really hard. I was not there for the mixing process of this one just because of having a young child at the moment and trying to deal with the whole family balancing and stuff like that. And so this is maybe I should step back from more records because this one turned out to be my favorite.
Well, Checker Wrecker, of course, is a go-go flavored track, and Ndugu is a sort of a driving instrumental with real nice horns in it.
No question.
Yeah.
With nice sonic tonalities, I feel like kind of gritty and really kind of like dirty drums, and I just like the whole sonic landscape of Ndugu.
Yeah. And as we look back on, the band's catalog, are there one or two tracks that are personal favorites of yours, either from studio or you just love playing them on stage?
Silence is Golden, Ndugu, Morning Mr. Schminkelhofer, like what did we end up calling JB's jam, Mr. Dynamite. It's like something like just created in the studio itself. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot on this record. Okay.
What might be 5 of your all-time favorite albums by others?
Mothership Connection, Back to Oakland, Tower Power, and Parliament Funkadelic from the one before, if you didn't know that. Stevie Wonder, Inner Visions, definitely on mine. Earth, Wind and Fire. And there's so many. It's like pick which Earth, Wind and Fire record. My goodness. Let's just say the entire Earth, Wind and Fire catalog. Let's say Maceo Parker, and All the King's Men.
All right. Well, at least 2 of those for sure are my top 5 also. And actually, I don't know if you can see behind me, but that's Mothership Connection, the gold one on the wall.
I can't see it. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And which other one is in your top 5?
Inner Visions. That's definitely my favorite Stevie Wonder album. A lot of people pick Songs in the Key of Life. Inner Visions for me.
Yeah, me too.
Earth, Wind and Fire, it is a tough call for me. Probably between That's the Way of the World and All in All.
I generally say All in All when I'm asked to pick, just because of Serpentine Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in sync there. What to you makes funk so special, Adam? Why do you love it so much?
Man, sometimes you don't choose what you love. You eat an avocado for the first time, and you're like, I love that. I don't love it. Funk music for me was something I probably didn't understand that I really loved until my music teacher kind of pointed out to me, like, hey man, when we're in the jazz band and we play funkier music, you light up. That's what he told me, word for word. He was like, you light up when we play this. And he made me a funk music mixtape that parts of, it started with both parts of the Oakland Stroke. And then went on and had JB's stuff, and other tunes that he wanted us to learn for the jazz band. And you talk about it, there are a couple people who can really touch you and change your life, and Kenneth Jernigan, Mr. Jernigan, my high school teacher, was one of those people.
It's a beautiful thing when that happens.
Yeah.
What about funk guitar? If somebody's just starting out, say, what would you give as 1 or 2 tips for, getting your chops down for funk guitar?
Just approach it as you're already winning, because if you're doing that, it means you love funk music, which means that you're going in there with a certain mentality of, I like to play a repetitive part over and over again, and I get enjoyment from that. Where I think some people might view that as, man, I get bored, or I need to do more, or I need to be flashier, or something like that. And I think funk guitar is more for those people who really enjoy to be part of a group, part of a pyramid of a part, being a part player where everyone's playing this part in this pyramid, and all of a sudden you make the whole thing like the strong, with the strong base and strong foundation that the top can exist and all these other parts can, become one.
Do you, I haven't had the pleasure of seeing Lettuce perform. I hope I get a chance very soon. But in a live context, how much more soloing do you do?
I probably take like 2 or 3 solos a night with the group. We all try and, because there's so many of us, there's 6 of us. If all of us take 2 or 3 solos a night, that's what, it's like 18 tunes if we all take 3. So we don't play that many tunes. So it's got to be less than that if we're really trying to, let everybody shine, which is you know, what we're trying to do. We're trying to let everybody shine.
One track I didn't mention that I just want to highlight before we close from Mount Rushmore is Ransom, because your guitar work is a little more prominent on that one. That's one example where you come forward in the mix for sure. Out of not just the rhythm context, but a little bit of lead in that one too.
Yeah, I think that's Kraz playing lead on that one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. All
definitely.
right. Um, so we
That's
talked
me on Chief on that.
Chief. Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
on that record, I think, right? Same record.
Who would you like to work with that you haven't yet? That's sort of your bucket list, maybe, that you hope you can one day collaborate or share a stage with.
Morris Day, Stevie Wonder. I'll leave it those two.
Yeah.
Oh, I had it in Philip Bailey. How about you, Philip? Come on, man. I'm singing a song with us, bro.
Did you say Philip Bailey?
I did. I did.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard. Okay.
I hope you watches this show. If you do, Philip, come on, man. Come hang out with Ledge for a little bit.
Philip has been on the show, so
See? See,
yeah.
I knew it. I had a feeling.
Working
So
on
now
Morris Day though.
now I'm getting to speak to him personally. I feel like we know each other.
All right, Adam. Hey, that's pretty much what I have, and I'm sure you're eager to get back out there. We're eager to have you back out there.
We all are, man.
This thing lifts, how quickly do you think you might resume a tour or something like that? Any idea?
Hey, man, that's not in my hands. And, as soon as we're able to get back out there, we're going to.
Thank you so much. Continued success. Be safe, and
You too, man.
great talking to you. Take good
Great
care.
talking to you too, and thank you again for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube. Go to the Funk and Stuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies here like TIR Quick Takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two, we could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkandstuff.net website, and on the right-hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at scottg@funkandstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.